Hi, everybody. Welcome to UX and Time. My name is Juliet, and I'm super excited to have you here. As every week, we bring a new guest. And I know I always say the same, but I'm super excited about today's guest. I'm going to be excited about every guest that I bring. So I should try to find a different word. But we are going to talk about with Jenny. She has 16 years of career experience as a designer, a strategist, and technology evangelist. Um, so let's bring her in, and she can tell us about herself. Great. Let me find you. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Yes, really nice to have you here. We had the chance to talk about this podcast more than I would say a couple of months ago. So I cannot believe it that we finally made it happen. So again, thank you for joining. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Why don't we start telling people who are you? Who is Jenny?
All right. So, my name is Jenny Beatty, and I'm a technology guru, a design nerd, a mentor, and a cat mom. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and that is a place that taught me how to be highly resourceful, hardworking, and fiercely independent. Right now, I live in Portland, Oregon, and I am an associate creative director for a mid-sized advertising agency where I lead the digital design team.
Nice. Thank you so much. And again, this is one of my favorite questions because everybody always comes with such unique answers. So yeah, what is a fun or unique fun fact about you different than the cats? I mean, you just said that you see
You know,
recommend
you know.
cats.
Well, I actually have two totally different identities. There's designer Jenny, and then there's cyclist Jenny. A lot of people know me for being this crazy cyclist who did a lot of endurance riding. And so, if you really total up all of my miles from all of the years of riding, I have ridden the equivalent of two trips around planet Earth, which is about 50,000 miles. It seems like a lot, but it's spread out over a lot of years. And there's a design conference I attend in San Diego every year where I rode my bike from Los Angeles to San Diego just to attend the conference. So, yeah,
Just
fun
for
side.
fun. Yeah. Well, how long have you been riding to do all that to Earth's trips?
It's been about just over 12 years or so. So it's not too many miles, but there's many people out there who've done a lot more, and I've certainly turned more into the commuter than the endurance rider that I used to be. But it's cycling and bikes are still just a giant part of my life. You don't want to get in my way when it's Tour de France season. I will fight you for the TV.
Nice. I used to bike a lot. I live here in Vancouver, and I used to bike a lot. And then I got a scooter, and then my bike is there on the side. I try every year. I said, "Let's summer, let's get back to my bike," and it's like, "Oh, my scooter is outside waiting for me." So one day I will get back. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about that. Okay, let's talk about your design career. Like, why design? How long? How did it start?
Oh boy. Well, I have a very traditional path. I studied illustration and filmmaking as an undergraduate at the University of Arizona, and I started my career in Los Angeles around about 2006 or so as an entertainment designer. So I was working on movie posters and billboards in the entertainment industry. But it turned out that this grand vision that I had built for myself in school really didn't match the reality of working as a designer. So I fizzled out from that pretty quick. And it took me a while to really like sink my teeth into the design industry and learn more about myself and where I wanted to actually work. And so I found success as sort of becoming this Jane of all trades and rejecting the notion of specialization, which is something you hear a lot as a student or even through recruiters. And so I wound up experimenting with a lot of variety of roles, a lot of industries, a lot of business types, all the while accruing just this unlimited supply of hard skills and business knowledge. So now it's 16 years later. I have worked in every level of design from junior designer to ACD. And I've worked in every neighborhood of design from freelance to in house to agency And now where I am is my focus area is digital experience design, or DXD. And it's a bit of a niche multidisciplinary practice that focuses on branded digital experiences, inclusive of websites, but everything outside of websites like LED walls or sensor driven artwork or things you might see on a concert stage, all kinds of things that involve technology and branded digital environments.
Oh, that's so nice. And I mean, is it's a little bit surprising. And again, coming like you were saying when you started your career that you didn't specialize, because I feel like it's a question that you get here all the time. It's still today.
Mhm.
It's like, where are you going? Like you have to tell me where it is. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted to do. Uh, so it's nice that you said, okay, no, I don't want to do that. I want to like see what I like and go for it. And I think that's what have brought you to where you are today and being successful in what you do.
Yeah.
Um, so going into that, like, how did you get there? How did your career evolve? How did all this transition happen? And like again, if you will look 16 years ago, we didn't know about much about UX experience or design, or it was like not this more tangible concept that we have today. So what happened?
Well, when you're in school, you kind of think it's like, great, this is where I'm going. It's going to be a straight path. I'm going to climb the ladder. But like once you've been doing this for a while, everyone will tell you that career paths look like squiggly lines and it's a mess. And I'm, proof positive of that exact situation. I came out of school doing print design, and I was coming out of school right when the economy tanked in the United States. So this was the 2008 financial crisis, and I either had to learn how to pay rent on my own or move back in with my parents. And at the time, the only freelance work that was available was web work. So I taught myself coding by hacking WordPress themes, and I was bringing all of this super high caliber print design techniques to the web world, and delivering this level of work that really no one was doing at the time. Um, and so there was a couple of years where I was a freelance business owner, and I knew that to make myself stand out, I had to do something more than just make something look good. It was also about like how it worked for the user, for the client, how the client was even going to update content. And to this day, I very rarely meet other creatives who sort of have this drive to design the ultimate user experience built for maximum value. And I think it's just because I've played in a little bit of every role, and it's like I have empathy to the clients, I have empathy to the content, I have empathy to the users, and also I'm a designer and at the base level of it. So it's like I want it to look good, I want it to work good. I also want my client to feel like updating their work and maintaining their website is easy for them, so that they're not cursing my name every time they try and go and like change one image. So yeah, I when I was learning how to do this stuff, I was designing the WordPress backend to make sure that it was easy for the client. I was designing the front end. I was teaching myself how to do interactions. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, well, thinking about this, like when everything not was this accessible, yeah, so you can just go and look like YouTube videos and see how to do things. But I think this is like a good way to, and I think whoever is entering any career to go and try to do it by yourself and find those skills and see how you break things and fix them and make them useful for at the end of the day the clients, yes, that you want to make them happy. Um,
Exactly.
and yeah, you mentioned there that yeah, we want people to know, or in this case, the clients, the value of the design. And I think having that transition, of course, you want not just clients to pay you, but clients to go and talk about other clients and say, or people and say, hey, why don't you hire her? So how do you start explaining the value of design for them to come back to you and say, okay, what she's doing is the right thing?
Yeah. Well, it was about halfway through my career. I was working in-house, and I had an experience where I was super excited about this project I was working on, and my boss went out of town. And so he left it to me to explain it to the C-suite about this project that I had put all this work and time and effort into. And so I went there with like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed designer, and I'm like, look at this amazing work. Isn't it fantastic? And they're just like, what are you talking about? So I started looking for, what are some places where I can learn how to sell things better to the C-suite? And I found the Masters in Branding program in New York at the School of Visual Arts. And so halfway through my career, I picked up, I moved to New York, and through that program, yeah, I did learn how to sell things better to the C-suite, but the program also heavily focused on the psychology of branding. And that taught me so much more about how human emotions can make or break a design. And since then, anytime I present my work to clients, I map my recommendations back to how something makes someone feel. For instance, like I was talking about interactions a few weeks ago, and it's like we're trying to add an interaction here to make someone feel calm and to give them a moment of peace in between this content and that content so that they have time to absorb and really feel and ingest that content versus just throwing more content at them over and over and over. So yeah, it's, when you really work on how to relate to the client, you're allowing them to better understand and, better understand your point of view versus just asking them like, do you like how XYZ deliverable looks? Because everybody can have an opinion, but it's your job to sort of persuade the client into the opinion you want them to make.
Well, and I think they take us to the next question that is working on like ambiguous kind of work. Yes, and I know that is something that you really enjoy, and I don't know if you can give us maybe. I didn't put this question here, but what about if you give us like a example? What will be like an ambiguous
Yeah.
project, and how do you navigate this type of project with not just client and stakeholders, but your teams to involve them in what you're doing?
Yeah. So I've been using this term ambiguous for a little while. There's this really wonderful design thinker named Andrea Small who really started like writing down exactly what I was feeling all this time when I was talking about this work. Um, what I call ambiguous work is where you don't know exactly what you're making when you start the project. In DXD specifically, we're working with more of like a problem. We're interviewing the client to sort of figure out like what is your biggest problem and then how can we solve that? And so you don't know if you're making a website or a CMS or an LED wall or anything right up front. You have this ambiguous problem like what can I do to make my employees feel more appreciated in the workspace? How can I reduce employee turnaround with artwork in the office? So you're starting with this like big hairy problem and you're working your way backwards to come up with a tangible solution. So that's how I sort of think about these ambiguous projects is it's like you're starting with the problem and not necessarily the solution versus a lot of design out there is I need a print manual, I need a business card, I need a logo, I need a website. Yeah.
And how now that I mean, not everybody's like, okay, yeah, let's do this. I don't know where we're going. Let's do it. So how can you bring the team together? Not to feel nervous, because I think when you say ambiguous, it's like, what do you mean ambiguous? We don't know where we're going. So how do we you keep people calm and navigating to these kind of processes? Yeah.
Yeah, it's this flavor of work is weird. It really requires each member of the team to embrace uncertainty in order to find the joy in not knowing what's next. And so that requires you to be super adaptable, super curious, and most importantly, very unbiased. You really can't have an opinion about what someone's going to come up with because you don't know what you're really doing. Um, and so it's sort of like what I try and work with a team is really reminding them to resist the pressure of settling on an answer right away and rather to see this uncertainty of not knowing where you're going as more of like a defining moment of opportunity. It's all about just learning how to make the best of it when you really don't know what the next step is and really controlling your stress level because because it's like you don't really know what everybody's going to do. And so it's like, okay, what's next? What's the joy of the next thing? And what opportunity really exists in those little dark, deep, dark recesses of exploration?
I mean, this made me think about when you were a kid and you were just learning things. You don't feel like nervous about things. You're just going for it and exploring without like any limitations or like biases, like you mentioned. Because I feel like it's so hard. now that you know so many things in life, when something presents, like your brain start moving around, it's like, oh, we have seen this, we have heard about this. So I think having that control of like, okay, wait, is let's just go in and try to put this on the side and come back. So yeah, thank you for that. um, so what are the three most important things to be aware when working in this type of projects?
Well, DXD is unique. I think I've said this a few times already. I call it sort of the black sheep of the digital design industry. And I say that because it's one of the specialty areas that has resisted this drive to formulaic design that we commonly see in UX in a lot of places now. And for those of us who sort of work in this niche, UX is more of a way of thinking rather than deliverable. Everyone shares responsibility in each phase of the work, and everyone has to sort of have a base level understanding of how UX impacts the work. And so there's less of this drive where I have to figure it out now. So specifically about DXD, yes, there's the practicality of timelines and how to get it done, and there's the visual, how does it look, and how does it feel, and how does it move. But you know, when you really kind of step back and really like, what are these like big things you have to be aware of? It's like, how does something make a user feel? What is the emotional reaction they're having when they're looking at that thing that you made? How does something actually work for the user? Like a majority of work that we do in UX in DXD is like, what happens when someone stands here? How does it trigger this? How does it do that? And on the back end, like how does it work for the client? How do they function with it? How do they keep it going? And another thing that happens in this is there's this constant desire for it to be evergreen and fresh, because when you have a permanent installation, people walking in and out of that space, they're going to get bored of this thing that's moving all the time. So how do you keep it fresh so that they're always engaged and they're always interested and they're always returning and looking for new content? It is truly a unique sort of practice in digital design. And it's like you've got all that foundational stuff you already practice in UX and design, but then there's a whole nother level of stuff you have to think about.
And I think that a lot of the things that you are talking about so intangible. Yes, it's like this is not something that I can just go and touch and feel. So what would you say that are those intangible parts of the UX design?
Oh, well, my opinions are my opinions. That's one thing though about it, is that these opinions are crafted after 20 years of doing it, and this is just something. These are my thoughts. So, in my opinion, UX has gotten so formulaic so fast, and I'm hearing more and more these days that my design recommendations need to be backed up by data. And the thing is that visual design is so intrinsically tied to how something makes you feel about a brand, and without being explicitly told how the brand wants you to feel. And so the thing is it's like when you think about how this applies to your experience, that you have to understand that to evoke an emotional response from a user, you have to consider many more factors than if this block of content makes sense as a 3-column grid. Yes, a lot of these factors are like tangible strategic goals you have to think about as you're sort of working with that content, but it's just as crucial to think about the intangible emotions that users experience when they're interacting with a digital artifact. If you think, here's a great example. Take the Van Gogh experience that has been traveling around the world the past few years. For those who have seen it, you may have noticed everyone around you is in this state of awe, like experiencing joy. And the interesting thing is that with the work that I've done in the DXD field is that these emotions are not, they're not specific to just consumer-based DXD projects. You can also have these same emotions in B2B work. And it's, how you do that is just by increasing how much we talk about how something should make someone feel, and really challenging our own preconceptions about, what this particular flavor of design should be, or what this particular flavor of design to be, because we don't really know. Like we're constantly reinventing ourselves with digital design, and, you know, making it formulaic is just making it expected. And so, really like discussing with your full team how everyone will work together to achieve both the strategic goals and the emotional goals is really like taking care of those intangible things, because it's like with the formulaic UX design, it's so tangible, it's so based on data, and the visual component is also a very important thing, and so they are two equal players, and it's all about like how are you setting up the design for success.
I mean, either way, like the intangible is going to have, either if you don't think about it or you think about it. Yeah, it's like people is going to feel emotions when you see your work either way. So I think to have that in mind and be present in having in that in the process, I think that um is pretty cool. And these take us kind of a little bit to the process, to your philosophy, like working so long in design and having to work in so many different projects with different people, different teams, take you back to unique ways of thinking and what it is that unique philosophy that you have.
Well, I have a lot of philosophies about how we can all support each other better in the creative industry. I'm only one person. I can only have so many opinions. But as specifically to UX, one truth is that UX is a very new career path, and it has matured very quickly. 10 years ago, you didn't really see UX designers working outside product companies or digital agencies, and now it's everywhere, in every place, in every company. And the downside to rapid growth in UX is that the design industry hasn't scaled at the same pace. And so, my opinion is that we're seeing this drive to formulaic design because that's how we create certainty in a field of uncertainty. Yes, there's all of this accessibility and everything that all goes into it, which is all super, super important. But too much certainty leads to the loss of tension. And if you really look into like the whole concept of tension in design, um, tension when you don't really quite know how to solve something, but you're using like the creative conceptual part of your mind to solve it, it's tension is where creativity thrives. And so if you take the majority of tension and conceptual thinking away from the designer, you take away their chance to be creative and to do the things that they're trained to do. And so this is why you start seeing a lot of people who are in design roles with very highly structured UX teams where it's like, I thought I was going to be a designer and I'm not designing. And so it's starting to really like impact a lot of people who are working in these roles and a lot of like, have we gone too far with this formulaic practice? And I guess my hope with all of my opinions and the people who are listening to this podcast is that we'll look for more opportunities in projects and in your teams to really increase collaboration between UX and design long before wireframes are sketched out. Like lean into that design team to help work on that conceptual thinking because at the end of the day, you might be surprised with what your design team comes up with. It also leads to more emotionally impactful and effective work. And it also helps keep your team from leaving and going to the next agency or the next place because they feel like their opinions value and that their training and education is valued. So this is a problem that I hear a lot. It's something I would love to see more solutions for. Um, but those are just my
Well,
opinions.
I think this just is perfect for what is coming next because I think one of the things that people love the most about jobs usually is like, I love the people that I work with. Yeah, it's like they're empowering me, they're challenging me, they're just making me better. So, how do you make your teammate comfortable and engaged what they doing in the project or the day to day? Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, these are some new thoughts that I've been credit the training from Andrew Small for, but it's how people react to uncertainty and ambiguity is deeply tied to who they are as a person, their experience, the practical implications of a project. And so it's not really your job to make anyone feel comfortable. That's sort of that's not your problem to solve. That's theirs. But what you can do, and something I teach a lot of the mentors I talk to, is that you can work on making your work as relatable as possible to your teammates. Ask your teammates what matters most to them. How do they define success? What are their expectations? And weave that into the work you're doing and refer back to that in your talk track. And the thing is like when the people around you feel as if you have listened to them, and then you show them how you have addressed their needs as well as your own. You're just maybe not talking about it. You actually avoid discomfort altogether. So it's sort of a not. It's sort of one of those non-answers where it's like, okay, you're not going to there make someone comfortable. That's their own thing. But you can represent your work and in the best way possible by just being relatable.
Oh, yeah, that's so nice. And I think, again, at the end of the day, um, that tension that you were talking at the beginning is so essential in any relationship. It's not something that you cannot avoid. I think it's something that when it's treated properly and responsible, and having people that you can trust, being uncomfortable and having a tense relationship where you can challenge each other is going to be so powerful. And I think, again, going to a little bit back to what you were saying is like, how do we now make sure, now that we feel comfortable, now that we have kind of like know each other better, how we make this thing is team strong, and how we make sure that they keep working in this team, and we can keep like growing together.
Yeah. What it really comes down to is we have to remind ourselves that all of us in the creative industry want to be successful and profitable. We all want to feel like we've done a good job. And we don't necessarily go to our jobs and be like, I'm going to blow the budget and timeline today. It's more, it's that doesn't really cross your mind, but it's like when you're in the thick of it and you're stressed out, that's the thinking that comes to your head is like, this person's not paying attention to my needs. And so it's literally just like step back. That person is an individual. They want to see success. They want to see the company and the client succeed. And so you really have to like stop yourself from those moments and think about how is this person trying to like bring success. And so that team strength is sort of rooted in trust, and the only way to build trust is to get to know the needs and goals of each individual on your team. It's critical to be accountable to them on the day to day, but it's also critical look to be looking out for their future. And we tend to change jobs because the environment doesn't support us physically or emotionally, or when growth opportunities aren't there. But when you talk to your people and learn what fills their creative cup, make sure you're actually making a plan to take action. Don't just sit there and be like, well, one day it'll happen. You have to really listen, trust them, support them, understand that they want to also see success, and then really work on intentionally building that career growth for them in their role.
Oh, yes, I mean, love it. It's like, yes, yeah. And I think just taking the time to really listen to people and understand what they are and what they're coming for, and again, empower them to grow. And I think maybe a lot of people is always afraid, oh, they're so good, we don't want them to go, like stay here. And then that's when you start feeling that this is not the right environment for me. But yeah, I love that. I mean, with the title of the podcast is 16 years of career. So would you have done something differently?
I'm kind of a big believer in fate. And the thing is like, had I done something different, I may not have gotten the opportunities I did, or met the people I did, or gone the places I did. And so, sure, someone can look at my career and be like, you weren't in an agency the whole time, or you were a freelancer and all this weird stuff, and oh, you changed jobs too often. But I'm super proud that I stuck to my goals, that I chose bravery, that I moved at a moment's notice and went and chased an opportunity. And every single time I got rejected, I tried and tried again. I just kept going. Yeah, so no, I wouldn't change anything. I've really loved my career.
Yeah, no, and I feel the same about my life and everything that had happened. Like, for sure, I have wished that where I am today, I would have known about design before, but then I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's kind of so, yeah, confusing. It's like I wanna have everything that I know now, but I have it there. But yes, it totally makes sense. And if you could tell your young designer 16 years ago
Oh,
to do something different, or what would you say? What would you say to your younger self?
Um, time is something you can't buy back. Close the laptop, go out for a walk, get some exercise, develop a habit for being healthy. You can't be a good designer if you're not physically healthy. The work will always be there, even if it doesn't feel like it's there in the moment. It'll happen.
And I'm really, this is so important for, I feel like, any time of your life, like not just for work, but I think for your day to day, like how you're really making a space for you to feel better, to grow, to just have a time for yourself. And sometimes it's just easier. Oh, let me do a little more of work, or whatever it is. Yes, like those seconds are not coming back, and maybe you are going to feel better tomorrow by just closing the computer and going for the walk. Okay, we have a couple of questions, if that's
Good.
okay. Yes. Okay, let's see. What is this? This is Claudia. I'm saying it like she's Spanish. Okay. When someone asks you for a logo, website, or more general requests, how do you ask the stakeholders to figure out what their business needs is? What their business is. Mhm. Oh, did I lose you? Oh no, I lose her. Did I lose you, Jenny? I think so. Oh no. Oh, let me see. Oh, let's see. Jenny, are you there? No, I see you frozen. Oh yes, she's frozen. Let's give her 2 seconds to see if she is coming back. But meanwhile, I have shared some information about her. She is in ADP list. So if you want a one-on-one, I added all the information on the description. And if you haven't follow us on YouTube or LinkedIn, make sure that you do, so you don't miss people. You don't miss these amazing chats that we have every single week. So every single week, I try to bring a different guest that can tell you a little more about what they do the day to day. And yes, so we have her back. Okay. Perfect. Okay. No worries. You were like a little bit frozen, but that's all good. So maybe I will read the
Love that.
question. I don't know if that was maybe the issue. Maybe I can just read it. So
Okay.
Claudia was saying, when someone asks you for a logo, website, or a more general request, how do you ask the stakeholder to figure out what are their business needs?
Well, it usually starts with the problems they're experiencing. There's always going to be people who are working on, like, what are you actually going? Are you having a hard time reaching users? Do you want to see an increase in traffic? Do you want to achieve this new marketing goal? There's so many different things that you'll wind up asking a client in a discovery session, but it usually starts with, what are the problems? Like, what problems are they currently experiencing? Where do they want to go as a brand? What are their competitors doing? And then it's sort of just a lot of discovery and a lot of asking questions back and forth. And then, our job as creative directors and strategists, when we are thinking about all that, is to collect all that information, sort it all out, and come up with a couple of observations and insights. And, the thing is, the client may not know what the actual problem is. Like, you may discover something on your own through all that research, and they'll be like, oh, that's the problem. Gotcha. So yeah, it's all through like a discovery session and just asking them a ton of questions and trying
Yes.
to get a feel for what's going
Nice.
on.
Thank you. Yeah. Hope that Claudius is still here. But next one is for Bernadette. Hello. Do you have any suggestions or book to read about psychology of design?
Mm. Ooh, that's a really wonderful question. Well, the first one is this book I've been mentioned a couple times in this podcast. It's called Navigating Ambiguity by Andrea Small, and she is a Stanford D School professor and also a longtime agency veteran. Um, And I bet you that I can come up with one or two more, and I will share those with Julia. I think she can put them in the podcast notes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you. And our
Oh,
last
now I
one
can't
from,
hear you. Oh
oh,
no.
oh no. Did I lose you again? Oh, okay. We lost her again. I think she's having issues. Oh, she's back. She's back. That was really quick. Okay. Oh no, there you are. Perfect. I was going to say we have one more from Edward. and is there any example of a project that has missed the emotion results that you were looking for?
Oh, yes. I did a project for a hospital system where we had to create an experience that reduced fear of robotic surgery. And so it was really fascinating. You had patients who were afraid of having a robot operate on them, and then you had doctors who wanted people to invest in this new technology so they could keep getting better. And so we developed a operation style game that took patients through the actual process of performing robotic surgery. And you think it's like scary and gross and everything, but it was actually this really fun game. And we wound up having so many people play this game in a particular amount of time that it just was something like 800 people playing it in a 5 hour amount of time. And it was just bonkers. People were just fighting over who was going to get to play the game next. And I literally watched two very senior gentlemen fight over who was going to play the game. Like, how often in your work do you see like two people in wheelchairs fighting over who's going to play this very weird game next? But anyways, at the end, um, the doctor who was sort of our one of our initial stakeholders who was helping us research what we were going to do, he comes to me and he says, um, "You took the essence of what we do and created an everyday teaching tool for the public." And I just, ever since then, I melt whenever I hear that because, you know, first of all, you're taking this super complicated thing with these really big risks, and you are bringing joy to something that is your joy to from fear to joy. And so, yeah, I did. That was one of the things where I had a big emotional response. I was super happy.
That's so powerful. I know I didn't write this question, but how did you ended up in this type of career? Because I feel like it
Yeah.
just combines so many things that is something that a lot of people would love to do.
Well, it's fate and serendipity actually. I was working on a contract for an agency back in early 2018, and I had been doing this type of work for a long time. I was always looking for a place where I could combine my background in strategy, technology, and design, and I just was always having a hard time finding that. And so I worked for this one agency, and I met this amazing creative director who, I hit it off right away. And a couple months later, I was looking for work again, and I hit her up, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? I'm free again to go work on something." She's like, "Come work for us." And I mean, this is someone I had met for like 2 weeks, and that wound up being the an agency I worked for that was specialized in DXD, and it was like the best job I ever had in my life. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know that's what it was called. I had just unknowingly been working in that field for a really long time. Um, and I wound up finding a place where all of my skill sets were valued and leveraged every single day. And it was a really special moment in my career.
Oh, I love that. I kind of feel the same about the things that come into my life and experience that I've had, that it will guide me to fulfill and take and use up everything that I am. I think so. Yes, I don't know if it will be something like yours, but I think I want to find a space where I can use all the things that I enjoy and learn new things. So anyway, thank you so much. This was amazing and so much fun. Yeah, thank you for making up today. And for those who are watching and don't follow yet, make sure that you follow. So again, you can meet amazing people like Jenny. And as I mentioned before, you will find, or if you want to have a one-on-one with her, hit ADP list. Link is here. And yeah, was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I forgot. I love your earrings. Yeah, they're
Oh,
so nice. Yeah.
they're little terrariums.
Oh, yes, I know. I was looking at it, it's like, oh, I have to tell her they look so cute. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.